Hey guys, tonight we free-stepping into a cramped candlelit workshop somewhere in the crooked lanes of 18th century London. That is right. Back when there was more fog than people, George II still on the throne, and Benjamin Franklin was out in Philadelphia flying kites in the rain playing with electricity. And you are about to become a watchmaker, apprentice. More specifically, you are the poor bastard whose job is to wake up every single clock that stopped at midnight. Sounds romantic, right? Peaceful. Don't get too comfortable, because history tells us the first challenge of this job is too complicated gears or picky customers. It is the fact that you probably don't even have a decent lamp. So before you settle in, go ahead and like and subscribe. But only if you actually like what I do here, and drop me a comment. I want to know which sleepless souls are out there tonight, stuck in this London fog with me. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for some background noise, and let's ease into tonight's story. You push open the workshop door. Like it is complaining about someone coming in this late. The room is pitch black. Fog pushes in through the crack in the door, carrying that wet, briny smell of the Thames, mixed with coal smoke from some chimney far away. You stand there for a few seconds, waiting for your eyes to adjust. And then, hanging on the walls, sitting on shelves, dangling from the ceiling on ropes, all different sizes, all different shapes. Some have Roman numerals, some have Arabic numbers. Some don't have numbers at all, just two hands standing silent on a blank face. The hands are frozen in different positions, like each clock picked its favorite time, and then went on strike. One stopped at 10 after 3, another at 4:55, and one rebellious little bastard. Its hour and minute hands are twisted together, and a little bit of rat piss. And on the table until you find the flint and steel. Clink, 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 clink. Asterisk sparks jump out and land on an oil-soaked rag. Koof. You quickly light the oil lamp on the table. The wick drinks up the oil and starts burning. The glow spreads through the room, lighting up more and more clocks. A watchmaker workshop in 18th century London was a weird kind of space. It was part workshop, part store, and part bedroom, all crammed into one. Calling it a bed is generous. It is basically a wooden plank sitting on two boxes, with some straw and a ratty blanket thrown on top. Next to the bed, a ceramic teapot and a chipped cup. The tea went cold hours ago, but the thing that really catches your eye is a pocket watch on the workbench. It is half disassembled. Its little parts spread out across the table like a tiny corpse waiting for an autopsy. The case is silver, engraved with fancy patterns, but already starting to tarnish. You lean in closer. You can just make out the watchmaker's name on the dial. You've never heard of him. Rumor has it he went bankrupt and ran off 3 years ago. You pick up the watch and hold it in your palm. It is small, maybe a little bigger than a modern one. Pound coin. But it is heavy. The kind of heavy that tells you worth money. You carefully pop open the back cover inside. Gears upon gears upon gears. In the lamplight, they glow a dull bronze color. They just sit there, perfectly still, like a bunch of sleeping ants. Your master, if you could find him, he left 3 days ago to collect some bills and hasn't come back. You don't know if he got lost in the fog, or if some tavern keeper's wife convinced him to stay, or if he just didn't want to deal with this mess. All you know is that these clocks have to be running by morning. Customers are coming to pick up their watches, and your master, that old man who always patted you on the shoulder and said, "Take your time, kid." He left you holding the bag. You sit down in the chair. It creaks under you. You pick up a brass key and look for your first target. The big grandfather clock on the wall. It is the tallest one, the oldest one. Its wooden case is covered in fancy carvings, and on top sits a weather vane that hasn't spun in years. You drag a stool over, climb up, and swing open the glass door on the clock face. You insert the key into the winding hole. First try. Nothing. You push harder. The gears grind, dry and rough, like a rusty throat coughing. You keep going. 1 turn, 2 turns, 3. With every turn, you hear the mainspring tightening. A low, steady hum, like some sleeping animal just woke up and is grumbling deep in its throat. 30 turns. That is when the key finally won. Budge anymore. You let go and step back. Wait. Tick. Asterisk. A first ticket comes from deep inside the clock. Then another. And then the whole room fills with the sound. Tick, tick, tick. Steady even. Like a heart that just started beating again. 1 clock alive. Dozens more waiting. You hop down from the stool. Your knee pops. Hard to tell if that was your joint, or some part of Tonu is starting to come loose. The grandfather clock on the wall is still ticking away, but you don't have time to admire its comeback. The row of watches on the shelf next to it is staring at you with their empty glass faces, like they re-saying, "My turn. My turn." You walk over to the shelf and squint at the little paper tags, trying to make out who each watch belongs to. The light from that oil lamp is pathetic. Every watch has a tiny slip of paper tied to it, with the owner's name and the date it was brought in, written in the finest goose feather penmanship. Most of them are in your master's handwriting, that old-fashioned, fancy copperplate script where every letter curls into a ridiculous flourish at the end, like he is showing off. But some of the tags are in your handwriting, crooked, messy. You pick up a silver pocket watch. The tag says, asterisk Mr. Hobbs brought in the 14th of February. Problem runs fast. Asterisk you pop open the lid and hold it up to the lamp. This one, S movement is way cleaner than the last watch. Mr. Hobbs must be a particular sort of man. Brings it in for regular cleaning, but you spot the problem right away. The hairspring. That spring is thin as a strand of hair wrapped around the balance wheel. A little section of it is tangled up on itself. That is why it is running fast. Shorter hairspring means faster oscillation, means the watch thinks a minute is shorter than it actually is. You set the watch down on the workbench and pull open the drawer. Wooden, blackened by oil and age, but the tools inside are immaculate. Every one of them gleams with cold light. You pull out a loop, not the kind you wear over both eyes, but the kind you clamp onto one eye socket. The old-timers call it a jeweler's eye. Then bend down and bring the watch closer to the lamp. Deep breath. You grab the tangled hairspring with your tweezers. This is one of the most soul-crushing parts of watchmaking. How thin is a hairspring? Take a human hair, split it into 4 strands, and what you have to do is grab that thing with metal tweezers and untangle it. Without breaking it, your hand can shake. Your breathing has to be steady. Your heartbeat has to be calm. Any little twitch, and that piece of metal thinner than a mosquito leg will launch itself into the air and disappear. Then you get to spend the next hour crawling around on the floor looking for it. Then you get to spend the next hour crawling around almost touching the watch case. The oil lamp burns on your left, occasionally spitting out a little spark that arcs through the air. Through your loop, your right eye sees a whole different world. A microscopic world made of brass and steel and ruby. You can see the little burrs left on the gear teeth from when they were filed. You can see scratches on the pivot surfaces that you never notice with your naked eye. And that little synthetic ruby bearing, smaller than a poppy seed, is glowing warm orange in the lamplight. This was the daily grind of an 18th century London watchmaker. No electricity, no precision machine tools, no mass production. Every single watch was unique. Every part was made by hand, cutting the gears, polishing the pivots, coiling the hairsprings, drilling the jewels. All handwork. You might think that sounds romantic. The truth is, it also meant every single watch, as problems were unique too. Your master taught you that fixing watches isn't tea-fixing. How precise his tools were, where he got his materials, whether he'd been drinking that day. Guess right, and you fix it. Guess wrong, and good luck. Academics still argue about how 18th century London watchmakers made parts so ridiculously precise without microscopes. Some say it was raw talent. Some say it was generations of secret techniques passed down. Some say they were full of it, that those precision parts weren't actually that precise, and later generations just made up stories about them. For right now, staring at this hairspring thinner than a spider, all that matters is getting this stupid tangle undone. The tip of your tweezers touches the knot. You hold your breath. You apply pressure so light, you can barely feel it, and gently nudge the outermost coil. It moves. You keep going, little by little. 1 loop. 2 loops. On the 3rd loop, your hand twitches. Just a little. The tweezers slip. The hairspring snaps back into place. Asterisk like it is laughing at you. Somewhere outside, carriage wheels grind against cobblestones. Distant, like an echo from another world. A dog barks twice and stops. That is London at night, never really quiet. You come at it from a different angle, from underneath. Slowly, you push the hairspring up, letting the knot loosen just a little more. Just a little more. The lamplight flickers. The world inside your loop wobbles. Your eyes are starting to burn. Tears blur your vision. You blink hard, let the wetness wash over your eyeballs, and then the tweezers go light. The knot is undone. The hairspring settles back into its perfect shape. Coil after coil after coil, like a tiny golden flower blooming under your tweezers. You set the tweezers down. Lean back in your chair. Let out a long breath. There is sweat on your forehead. You didn't even notice it forming. The back of your shirt is damp. You look at the watch on your bench. Still sitting there, quiet. No idea what it just went through. You pick it up and hold it to your ear. Give it a little shake. No rattling. Good. Watch the second hand start to move. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3. Steady rhythm. Not too fast. Not too slow. Tomorrow morning, when Mr. Hobbs comes to pick up his watch, I'll never know how long you spent on that tangled hairspring. And disappear back into the London fog, and I'll still be here. Same oil lamp. Next watch. Next problem. Next knot thinner than a hair. You reach for your tools and start cleaning the parts you took apart. There is a little oil on your tweezers. The cloth is already stained with old grease. the low pink, you pick up the cold tea and take a sip. Bitter. You swallow and feel them scrape your throat. No time to brew fresh. Too many watches left. The grandfather clock strikes 1. Full gong. Asterisk 1 deep. Dull note echoes through the tiny shop. You count. Just 1. You glance up at the clock face. 1 in the morning. At least get all the watches on that shelf womb before you call it a night. You stand up and roll your stiff neck. It cracks and pops. You remember something your master once said. In this trade, you don't get buried by the clocks. You get buried by your own spine. Back then, you thought he was joking. You are just about to pick up the next watch when you hear something from outside. Not a clock. Not a dog. A knock. Thud, thud. Thud, 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 thud. Asterisk 3 short, 1 long. A rhythm. Deep in the London fog, someone is knocking on your door. Honestly, you'd rather believe it is the wind, or that drunk cat next door that keeps slamming into things. But that rhythm is too regular, too much like a code. You set your tweezers down, stand up from the bench, not to use as a light, but to use as, okay fine, as a weapon. Not to be reason to be careful. You walk to the door. You walk to the door. Candlestick raised to shoulder height. Deep breath. Pull the latch. The door swings open with a long creak. A wall of wet fog hits you in the face, mixed with the smell of a pipe. There is a man standing there. Dark cloak. Hood pulled low. You can only see the bottom half of his face. A man. Maybe 50-something. Deep wrinkles around his mouth, a prominent mole on his chin with a few white hairs sticking out of it. He has got a clay pipe clenched between his teeth. The ember inside glows and fades. Glows and fades, like a red eye blinking in the mist. You both stare at each other for a few seconds. His eyes stop for a second on that candlestick in your hand. And then he smiles. Not a friendly smile. Not a mean one either. More like, oh yeah, I get why you are holding that. Asterisk, he reaches under his cloak and pulls out a clock. Not a pocket watch. Not a grandfather clock. You've never seen anything like it. About the size of 2 palms side by side. Black wooden case. But when you look closer, you see incredibly fine carvings all over it. Thin oak leaves, and the strangest part, no numbers, just 12 tiny gold dots in a circle, 1 for each hour. Can you fix it? The man, his voice is raspy, the kind of raspy you get from smoking a pipe for 30 years. He holds the clock out to you, heavy. Way heavier than a wooden clock that size should be. That means the wood is something dense, ebony, or some exotic wood from a colony somewhere. You don't answer, and instead, you flip the clock over and look at the bottom. London, 1687 asterisk. This clock is almost 100 years old. In the 18th century, 100-year. Old clock is like 100-year. Old car today. It is not just a timepiece anymore. It is an antique, a work of art, maybe even a piece of history. Where did you get this, you ask? Those little white hairs on his chin catch the candlelight. That doesn't matter, he says. What matters is whether you can fix it. It hasn't run in a long time. I've been to at least 5 watchmakers. None of them would touch it. Some said it is cursed. Blows out a cloud of smoke. Some said it is alive. When he says alive, it is alive, you almost laugh. But you don't, because your hands are holding this clock. You can feel the case, cold as stone. But there is something else. Not a temperature. More like a presence, not weight. You open the front lid and look at the movement. Brass, but darker than normal. Almost bronze-colored. The way the gears are arranged. You've never seen anything like it in any watchmaking textbook. Normally, gears sit parallel to each other, like neat rows of books on a shelf. But this clock, some low, some tilted at a 30-degree angle, like a crowd of people doing some kind of complicated dance. In the center, you see a huge balance wheel, 3 times bigger than normal, moving just barely, swinging back and forth so slowly you can hardly see it. But it is not moving on its own. It is moving because your hands are trembling. It is running, you say. The man shakes his head. It is not running, he says. It is breathing. You don't want to admit it. Like something alive inside. You hold it to your ear, and you hear, not ticking, a faint hum, so faint, like a bee trapped in a glass jar. Academics still argue about whether any watchmaker in late 17th century London actually made a silent clock. Some old records mention one. A certain I won't bore you with the name anyway. The story goes that some watchmaker made a clock with specially lubricated gears that made almost no sound. But no one ever found one, so most people think it is just a legend. But this thing in your hands, unless you are imagining it, it is completely silent. Reaches under his cloak and pulls out a few coins. He sets them on the table. Silver on wood. That sharp, clean sound. Then he turns and walks back into the fog, staring at the silver coins on the table. And you think to yourself, what the hell did I just sign up for tonight? You carry that silent clock back to the workbench, set it down right in the middle. Then you take 2 steps back, like you are afraid it might jump up and bite you. But it doesn't. It just sits there, quiet, its deep blue dial glowing faintly in the lamplight. Those little gold stars seem to flicker, but that is just the flame burning unevenly. Right, just an optical illusion, right? Deep breath, calm down. It is a clock. A very old, very weird, very expensive clock. Watching someone disassemble a clock might look like vandalism if you don't know what you are doing. But for you, it is the only way in. Every screw, every plate, each one is a gate you have to pass through. You carefully unscrew the 4 brass screws on the back plate. Wait. 5. The 5th one is hidden in the vine carvings. Took you 2 full minutes to find it. That is how old clocks are. They always like to give you one last surprise, just when you think you've got it figured out. Not random messy. Someone's been in here. Messy. You see at least 3 different eras of repair work. Old crude patches where they used iron wire instead of screws. Some neat, skilled soldering, what passed for modern in the 18th century. A few thin copper wires running from one gear, looping around a tiny pulley of some kind. Then ending at nothing, just empty space. That empty space used to have a part. You can see the broken stub where something snapped off. From the way the surrounding gears are arranged, you figure the missing part. Something to transfer power. Without it, the power from the mainspring can reach the balance wheel. That is why the clock won't run. But what you don't understand is, why didn't the people who fixed it before just put that part back? They clearly had the skill to do those complicated solder jobs. So why leave this one gaping hole? You grab your loop and lean in close to the brake. The metal is dark, almost black. That means it has been missing for a long time. Decades, maybe. But the shape of the brake is strange. It is not worn down. It is cut. A clean, flat cut. And that many years ago. You are thinking about this when your elbow bumps into an old alarm clock sitting on the edge of the bench. It wobbles. Doesn't he fall? But it lets out a short fighting, like a warning. Not your imagination. That balance wheel. The one 3 times bigger than normal. It just twitched a tiny movement. Less than a millimeter. But it moved. You stare at it for 10 seconds. Nothing. You tell yourself it was an optical illusion. Or maybe your heartbeat traveling through the table and into the movement. But deep down, you know that is not true. Your job right now is to figure out what part this clock is missing. How to replace it. You dig through the drawers of the workbench and find a box of old parts. Your master's stash. Decades of collecting. Some parts came from clocks that were scrapped. Some are spares he made himself. Just threw them in for maybe someday. You start digging. Gears of all sizes. Pivots long and short. Springs in every shape. Little brass and iron bits you can even name. One by one, you compare them to the empty space, trying to find something that matches. After a long time, you find a gear, but the center hole is off by a hair, about the width of a human hair. In watchmaking, that tiny difference is everything. Hole too big, the gear wobbles on its pivot. Power delivery gets uneven. The clock runs fast, then slow, then fast again. Hole too small, the pivot 1T go in, and if you force it, you'll ruin both parts. What you need is a very fine tool for enlarging holes. But you don't have one. Your master has a whole set of brooches, but he took them with him. Same place he took himself. Who knows where? You look at the gear, look at the empty space, and then you remember a weird, obscure, kind of crazy method. One your master never even taught you. Yeah, you heard that right. There was a rumor among 18th century London watchmakers. If you needed to enlarge a center hole in a brass gear and didn't have the right tool, you could use a rat S-tooth. Rat incisors have a high iron content, harder than brass. You could use one as a tiny file. Just stick the tooth in a wooden handle and work the hole a little at a time until it is the right size, of course. The first problem with this method is, where do you get a rat S-tooth? And it has to be fresh. A dried tooth gets brittle. One good push and it shatters. You look around the workshop. Crumbs from yesterday. S-bread. Yeah. There are probably rats in here. But are you really going to catch one and pull its tooth out? You sigh. Forget it. Instead, you take a thin piece of brass wire and wrap it around the pivot. 3 wraps. Just enough to make the gear fit snug. Academics still argue about whether this kind of bodge job actually works, but I'll get the clock running. At least for now. You press the gear onto the pivot. It is a little stiff, but it turns. You put 1 drop of whale oil on each end of the pivot. That stuff was the best lubricant for precision machinery in the 18th century. More expensive than silver by weight. Your master barely used it. But tonight, you say screw it. Tonight, you are going all in. The oil soaks into the pivot hole. The gear spins smooth. You take a deep breath, reassemble the rest of the movement, and wind the mainspring. Tick, Asterisk, a tiny sound, barely audible, coming from deep inside the movement. Then another. Then another. Not a normal clock. As tick. This one is slow. Deep. Like a heartbeat. Much slower than a normal second hand. About 2 seconds per beat. But this old clock, second hand, shaped like a gold star, is moving at its own pace. Slowly. Gracefully. Step by step you lean back in your chair and watch that little gold star move across the blue dial. And somehow, the night doesn't feel so bad anymore. Carriage wheels are still grinding on cobblestone somewhere far away. But in this workshop, under this oil lamp surrounded by all those silent clocks on the walls, there is one clock, 100 years old, telling you that time is still moving forward. And then you hear it, a tiny sound. You turn your head. The door is shut. The latch is on. But that click was real. And you know it didn't come from any clock in this room. You stand up, candlestick in hand, walk to the door, press your ear against the wood and listen. Nothing outside. You stand by the door for a full minute, ear pressed against the cold wood. All you hear is the silence of the fog. That two-click doesn't come back. You start to wonder if your ears are finally betraying you after hours of straining. Or maybe it is just the old house doing what old houses do in the middle of the night. Especially in a damp place like London. The wood expands, contracts, creaks, groans. All night long, you go back to the workbench. But that old clock secondhand makes you forget about the door for a minute. Like it doesn't care that the grandfather clock on the wall has already ticked twice for every one of its beats. You stare at it for a while and then something hits you. If this clock's balance wheel is 3 times bigger than normal, and its hairspring is twice as long, then it runs at half speed. That means its second hand moves once every 2 minutes. Its hour hand moves once every 2 hours. Over a full day, it'll lose exactly half the time. It is not broken. It is designed that way. You look at the movement again, and you start to understand what that 17th century watchmaker was trying to do. He wasn't making a practical timepiece for catching trains. The deep blue dial, the slow, almost imperceptible motion. Everything about it was meant to make you slow down, sit stare, watch time pass at a pace closer to meditation than measurement. Long before anyone ever said the words, slow living, this watchmaker had already built it out of gears and springs. You think about that old water clock on the south bank of the Thames. That is still 100 years away. A real water clock, driven by the tides of the river, gears turned by the push of the sea. That clock had been running since the 13th century, repaired and rebuilt more times than anyone could count. Finally, torn down in the mid-1600s. Your master once took you to see what was left of its foundation. He pointed at the muddy brown water and said, "That is where time lives." Academics still argue about how accurate that water clock really was. Some say it was off by less than 10 minutes a day, a miracle for its time. Some say it was pure decoration. Looked nice, but useless. Sometimes off by hours. Some say it wasn't even meant for telling time at all. A way to count prayers. Your master had his own opinion. Doesn't matter if it was accurate. What matters is that it was running. As long as it was running, people knew time was still moving. That is enough. You look down at this old clock and think maybe your master was right. It is slow. Painted constellations, one step at a time, unstoppable. You suddenly feel that if time had a color, this would be it. Deep, blue, quiet. Deep, the kind of color you could stare into forever. You pick up your cold tea and take a sip. Tea leaves swirl around in your mouth. using that cracked ceramic teapot. Your master always said, drink your tea hot, fix your clocks early. Tonight, you are 0 for 2. Cold tea, slow clock, and you are stuck in the middle. The fog outside seems thinner now. You can see the glow of a gas lamp through the mist, a fuzzy orange halo on the window. Gas lamps started appearing in London in the 1730s. Now they re all over most of the city. But your street is too far out. No gas pipes yet, so you are still on oil. Oil light is yellow. Oil light is alive, because it changes with every breath of air. You agree with that. You sit back down and start checking the old clock. Escapement. That is when your eyes land on a watch sitting in the corner of the bench. Someone brought it in this afternoon. You haven't logged it yet. The case is brass, like it was dug out of a damp cellar. You pick it up and flip it over. There is an engraving on the back, 40 to the memory of J.S., who stopped time. Asterisk, you freeze. That is not just a random engraving. That is an epitaph. This watch wasn't meant to be worn. It was meant to remember someone, and who stopped time. In watchmaker circles, that phrase only means one thing. He is dead. There was a tradition among 18th century London watchmakers. When one of their own died, they would put a frozen hand on the dial of a watch, or engrave words like this on the case, a memorial. All the gears are there. Another clock strikes 2. Another way, another one. The sounds get smaller and smaller. Echoes passing through the fog. This is London, as nighttime symphony. Strangely beautiful harmony. You yawn, not tired exactly. It is that state where your body is exhausted, but your brain is still spinning. Your eyes are dry. The red ring from the loop hasn't faded yet, and now there is a new one next to it. You rub your eyes. Your fingers are a little oily. You look at the old clock. The gold star has moved 1 full mark. It took 2 hours to cover 1/12 of the dial. At this rate, a full circle will take 24 hours. Exactly 1 day. And then it hits you. This clock isn't measuring time. It is mimicking the rotation of the earth. Slow. You stand up and walk to the window. Wipe the fog off the glass with your sleeve. Look outside. The street is empty. A gas lamp glows in the distance, like a lonely sentinel. You see a shadow, a person standing under the lamp, motionless. You stare for a few seconds. The fog swirls. The shadow is gone. Maybe it was your imagination. Maybe there really was someone there. Maybe it was just the lamppost, twisted into a human shape by the fog. You turn away from the window and go back to the bench. No more looking outside. The old clock is still running. The gold star is still moving. That second hand is still telling you, in its own way, but it never stops. You pick up your cup and finish the last sip of cold tea. The leaves stay at the bottom. You look at them. The shape kind of looks like a turtle. You set the cup down. You don't even get the first screw out before the door makes noise again. It is the latch. Someone outside is messing with it. Flick, click, click. Asterisk, that iron latch sliding against its brass ring. The sound makes your spine go cold. In 18th century London, someone trying to open your door from the outside in the middle of the night usually means one of 3 things: a constable doing his rounds, a drunk neighbor, or the one you don't want, a thief. The door opens. It is not a constable, not a thief. It is a woman. She is wearing a dark cloak, hood down. Her face is red from the cold wind. 30 something, 40, like she hasn't slept in a long time. She's carrying a metal cage. Inside the cage is a parrot, a green parrot, standing on a little perch, head tilted, looking at you. A few blue flight feathers on its wings, long deep, red tail. This is a macaw, native to South America, in 18th century London. A macaw was a luxury on top of a luxury, more expensive than a gold watch. "Good evening," the woman says. Her voice is soft but clear, like she is afraid of waking someone up. "I need a watch." You look at her, then at the parrot, then back at her. You open your mouth to say something, but you don't know where to start. It is 2 in the morning. A strange woman with a parrot just walked into your workshop and said she needs a watch. This is not an everyday thing. In fact, in all your nights doing this job, this has never happened. You say. The woman ignores you. She walks straight in, sits down on the chair closest to the workbench, and sets the parrot cage on her lap. The parrot hops off its perch and climbs to the edge of the cage, tilting its head at your workbench. Its little black eyes scan the scattered gears and springs, like it is judging your skills. "I don't need a watch that keeps good time," the woman says, her eyes fixed on the old clock on your bench. "I need a watch that makes me forget time." You stop what you are doing and look up at her. "Forget time?" "Yes." She nods and reaches up to gently tap the parrot. The parrot lets out a short little squeak, like a toy horn. "I don't want to know what time it is. I don't want to know how long until dawn. I don't want to know how long I've been sitting here. I want a watch. It can run." You lean back in your chair and set your screwdriver down on the bench. You've seen all kinds of customers. Some want accuracy. Some want longevity. Some want jewels. Some want chimes. But I want a watch that doesn't tell time. You run through every script your master ever taught you, looking for the right response. Then you give up. Your master clearly never trained for this. "Ma'am," you say, "the basic function of a watch is to show the time. If you don't want time, you could buy a ring, or a necklace, or those things don't." The parrot follows with a sharp little chirp. "Don't move," like it is repeating her words. The parrot startles you, but the woman smiles. First time tonight you've seen someone smile in this workshop, and it is actually kind of nice. But what it says doesn't mean anything. It just repeats me. That is what time is to me. It keeps moving, it keeps repeating, but it doesn't mean anything. "I can make you a watch. No numbers, no marks, just 2 hands. They all keep turning, but you all never know what time it is, because there is nothing to compare them to." The woman's eyes light up. "You can do that. I can do that," you say, trying to find a polite way to say for this ain't cheap. "It takes some money." The woman reaches under her cloak and pulls out a leather pouch, sets it on the bench. The sound is heavy, metal on wood. You open the pouch. Inside are at least 20 gold coins. They glow warm in the lamplight. Your heart speeds up a little. You've never seen this much money in one place. Neither has your master. "Enough?" she asks. You nod and push the pouch back toward her. "Enough. But I need to ask you something first. Why do you want to forget time?" After a long pause, she says, "My husband died last year. Every morning when I wake up, the first thing I do is look at the clock. And then I know He has been gone another hour, every day, every hour, every minute. I keep losing him. I don't want to know anymore. You realize this bird isn't just mimicking. It is comforting her. You pick up your quill, write her name and her request on a slip of paper, and tuck it into an empty watch case. Put it on the pending shelf. 2 weeks. You say, come back in 2 weeks. You. Still holding the quill. Ink drips from the tip, leaving little black spots on the wood. You look down at those spots and think about her story. And you realize something. A watchmaker's job ends. Really about making watches. It is about making containers for people. As hearts. They stuff it all into those little ticking metal boxes. You set the quill down, sit back in your chair. The old clock is still running. That gold star has already moved another tiny mark. You watch it and think about what she said. It keeps moving. It keeps repeating. What means something are the things that happen to in time. The people you meet, to in time. The traces you leave, to in time. And clocks. Clocks are just there to remind you that those things, those people, those traces, they are getting farther away. You pick up your screwdriver and get back to work. The grandfather clock, second hand, is still racing. The old clock, gold star, is still creeping. The fog is still drifting. London is still asleep, and you are sitting in this little workshop, trying to fix one woman's time and another man. This memory, outside, somewhere in the distance, a church bell rings 3 times, 3 in the morning. After the woman's figure disappeared into the fog, the workshop fell quiet again. The echo of that parrot, as thank you, seemed to hang in the air, like an invisible feather drifting through the lamplight. You sit in your chair, staring at the spot on the bench where the leather pouch sat. You gave it back to her. But you can still feel its weight in your palm. 20 gold coins. Your master probably doesn't. He make that in a full year. And all you have to do is make a watch with no numbers. A watch that never tells you the time. You pick up your tools, meaning to get back to the old clock. But you can focus, not because of the gold, because of what she said. I keep losing him. Asterisk, and that makes you think of the escape wheel. In the world of clocks and watches, the escape wheel is the most important part, the most philosophical, and the most infuriating. It is the part that takes the power from the mainspring and hands it over to the balance wheel. One step at a time, you can think of the escape wheel as a gatekeeper. It lets one tooth pass, then stops. Lets one more pass, then stops. Then stops. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Asterisk, every step precise to a hair. The gears would spin wild. The hands would race around the dial. The whole day would pass in a few seconds. But with an escape wheel, time gets cut up into little pieces, little chunks we can feel. A rhythm. You pick up an old pocket watch from the bench, pop open the back, and point at the part that looks like a crab claw. You say to the air, or maybe to yourself, this is the escape wheel. This decides how long a second lasts. And then it hits you. Your life is kind of like an escape wheel. Isn't your whole life just being chopped into pieces by one damn thing after another? Learning during the day, fixing watches at night, winding clocks before dawn. Same rhythm every day. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Asterisk, every now and then, something unexpected happens. A mysterious old clock, a sleepless woman with a parrot. But those surprises are just like dust in a movement. You clean them out, and the rhythm goes back to normal. You are trapped in this rhythm, just like a balance wheel trapped between the pallet forks. You can move, but every move you make was designed for you long ago. You remember something your master once said? In this trade, we were not fixing the clocks, but the clocks are fixing us. Back then, now you are starting to think maybe he had a point. You pick up the old clock and check its escapement again. Its escape wheel is very different from normal ones. More teeth, shallower teeth, and the material isn't T-brass. It is some kind of dark alloy that hardly rusts at all. Uneven wear marks. Some teeth are worn more, some less. That means over the past 100 years, this clock has run unevenly, thousands of times. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes stopped, sometimes suddenly racing. Dip it in a little alcohol and start wiping down the escape wheel. The alcohol evaporates off the metal, taking a layer of black oxidation with it, revealing dark gold brass underneath. You wipe it carefully, every tooth, every gap. This is the most boring, most tedious, most I want to throw this thing across the room part of the job. But it is also the most important, because any speck of dust on that escape wheel will make the clock run wrong. And for that woman you just met, wrong might be exactly what she wants. Academics still argue about how 18th century London watchmakers made rust-proof alloys without any chemical analysis. Some say they mixed copper and tin in some secret ratio, then buried the parts in cow dung for months to ferment. Some say they used meteorite iron, high in nickel, naturally rust-resistant. Proofing technology at all. And the only reason some old clocks survive without rust is because they were kept in dry basements for centuries. You look at the escape wheel in your hand and think the third theory sounds right. You are going to have to replace all of them. You pick up your tweezers and start removing the rusty screws one by one. Each screw comes out with a short little soy squeak, like some tiny animal screaming. You file that sound under ambient noise of London at 3 in the morning, right up there with distant carriage wheels, barking dogs, and drunk men singing. Oil the escape wheel. You use that expensive whale oil again, 1 drop on the pivot, then spread it to every tooth tip with a goose feather. The whale oil forms a thin film on the metal, catching the lamplight and throwing back rainbow colored halos. You look at those halos and think probably only watchmakers think a drop of whale oil on an escape wheel is beautiful. It is a very niche kind of beauty, so niche that you might go your whole life without ever finding anyone else who gets it. You start putting the escape wheel back in. Your hands are steady. Tweezers hold the pivot, aiming for the tiny hole in the jewel bearing. Got it. Gentle push. Stuck. You adjust the angle. Push again. It clicks into place. The escape wheel settles into its spot, its teeth just touching the pallet fork. You wind the mainspring a little. The escape wheel starts working. 1 tooth, pause, 1 tooth, pause. Tick, tock. Asterisk, you close your eyes and just listen. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Asterisk, there is something hypnotic about that sound. Like someone counting softly in your ear. You suddenly understand why people keep a clock in their bedroom. Not to know the time, to hear that time exists. The ticking is a promise. You haven't been forgotten. You open your eyes and look at the old clock. The gold star has moved a little farther across the blue dial. Under the lamplight, the painted constellations seem to shift and flow. You wonder what that woman would think if she saw this clock. Would she think it is too slow enough to remind her of those endless, sleepless nights? Or would she think it is just right because it never rushes her, never tells her she is late again, never reminds her of another wasted hour? You don't know. All you know is that your job is to answer those questions. Your job is to keep this clock running, to keep that gold star moving, to keep that blue dial glowing in the lamplight. Whether it brings comfort or anxiety, you lean back in your chair and look at the clocks on the walls. Most of them are still stopped, waiting for you to wind them. The grandfather clock is still ticking, but that is just the beginning of the night. You still have to wind the watches on the shelf. Still have to finish that pocket watch as hairspring. Still have to draw plans for that woman. Time, watch. Still have to. You yawn. Your eyes water up. Everything goes blurry. You wipe your eyes with the back of your hand, pick up your quill, and start sketching the time watch on a blank sheet of paper. No numbers, no marks, just two hands. Slowly, constantly, without ever telling you anything. Outside, a church bell rings 4 times. 4 in the morning. You count the strokes. In the distance, another clock strikes 4. Then another. Then another. The sounds spread through the fog. Overlapping, weaving together into your talk to mark. You look back down and keep sketching. The woman has face. The gold coins. The parrot has voice. The teeth of the escape wheel. The gold star on the old clock. All these images cycle through your head like lantern slides, playing slow under the dim yellow light. You finish the sketch and tuck it next to the slip of paper with a woman's name. Then you pick up your screwdriver and turn back to the old clock. It is still running. The gold star is still moving. The blue dial is still glowing. You tighten the last screw and set the clock back in the middle of the bench. You just set the old clock down and reach for the next pocket watch when you just hit the wall and clatter under the table. Your heart is hammering. Your back slams into the shelf behind you. A brass clock on the shelf wobbles and almost drops on your head. You catch yourself, spin around, and stare at where the noise came from. The old clock. Its back plate is still off. You haven't finished putting it back together yet. And the sound came from right inside that open movement. Another burst. Sharp, piercing. Nothing like any sound a machine should make. You creep closer, raise the lamp, and shine the light deep into the movement. Between the gears and springs. Between the escape wheel and the mainspring barrel. Something is moving in there. A bird. A tiny thing made of brass, painted green and gold. A miniature parrot, no bigger than your thumb. Hiding behind the mainspring barrel, connected to a lever mechanism you didn't notice before. Right now, it is popping out of its hiding spot. Wings spread, beak opening and closing. Making that sound that nearly stopped your heart. You stare at the mechanical bird. The mechanical bird stares back at you. If those little glass jan bead eyes count as staring. It calls a few more times, then stops. Wings fold, beak closes. It retreats back behind the mainspring barrel, like a startled snail pulling into its shell. Just the grandfather clock ticking on the wall and your own breathing, fast and shallow. You grab the edge of the bench and slowly sit down. Your legs are shaky. Your hands are trembling. Your heart is still bouncing around in your chest. You take a deep breath, another one, and then you start laughing. The kind of laughing you do when you almost had a heart attack because of a stupid mechanical bird. The kind with self-gin mockery in it. Helpless laughing. You laugh for a while. Tears run down your face. You wipe your eyes, take another breath, and lean back in close to the old clock. You find the lever mechanism. It is very well hidden, mostly covered by a plate. Only a tiny piece of brass wire sticking out. When you were taking the movement apart earlier, you must have bumped that wire. That is what triggered the bird's performance. You carefully remove the plate and expose the whole mechanism. It is an incredibly intricate piece of work. Just to power the bird, a miniature cam system to control the beak, a little fan fly to regulate the speed of the calls, and the sounds in making part. That is the most amazing. Not a spring, not a bell. A tiny metal diaphragm with a very thin slit cut into it. When air from a little bellows is forced through that slit, it vibrates. It makes a sound like a bird call. It is basically a miniature reed. The same principle as, well, let's not mention modern things. Ruins the mood. Anyway, it is an ancient sound Zen-making technology. In the Shabbat century, they used it in singing bird boxes. You stare at this mechanism and completely lose track of time. This is one of the most complex mechanical things you've ever seen, even more to me than the clock's own movement. Every part was made by hand. Every bump on that cam was filed one stroke at a time. The gear teeth aren't standard shapes. They're asymmetrical, like nothing you've seen before. This isn't just a singing bird. It is a work of art, a mechanical sculpture. A secret treasure hidden inside a clock's belly, almost never to be found. And then a question hits you. Why would someone hide a mechanical parrot inside a slowed inn? Who would sit in front of a clock like this in the middle of the night, waiting for it to chime? And this bird doesn't even chime on any schedule. It doesn't call at the top of the hour, doesn't call at the half hour. It just, at some random moment, pops out, screams a few times, and goes back into hiding. Academics. Whether Shabbat the HEH century European automata were meant for practical use or just for entertainment. Some historians say these devices were gensher the watchmaker's skill, representing the Enlightenment idea that living creatures made by God can be imitated by man. But you look at this mechanical parrot and think maybe it had only one purpose: to scare the crap out of people. Pure, simple, meaningless. Maybe that Schutzi's 10th century watchmaker had a twisted sense of humor. Maybe he put this bird in the clock just so that 100 years later, some poor apprentice would get the living daylight scared out of him at 4 a.m. If that was his plan, it worked. You pick up your tweezers and start studying the bird's mechanism. Right now, it is in untripped mode. The separate mainspring is still fully wound. That means it has never been triggered before. You're the first. Well, your hand is the first to touch that brass wire. In the past 100 years, this clock has been repaired and taken apart. Who knows how many times? But no one ever found this bird. Either they weren't looking carefully enough, or they found it and didn't care, or they got scared and ran away. You decide to wind the bird. You find the winding hole, insert a very fine brass key, and turn it a few times. The spring tightens with a faint squeak. Then you flick the brass wire. Click. The lever releases. The cam starts turning. The fan fly spins. The little bellows compress. Gear grr. Oh, the bird pops out again. Wings spread, beak opening and closing. This time you don't jump. You just sit there watching it, listening. Then stops. Wings fold. Beak closes. It retreats back into hiding. The whole thing lasts maybe 10 seconds. You lean back in your chair and stare at the spot where the bird disappeared. A strange feeling settles into your chest. This bird was made installed in a clock. It waited 100 years for someone to make it call. It went quiet again. It might wait another 100 years for the next person. You're waiting for your master to come back, waiting for dawn, waiting to finish this clock, waiting to make that woman's watch. The next person to get scared, the next person to hear its call. Both of you stuck in this tiny workshop, in this foggy London night, each waiting for something. You pick up your tweezers and get back to work. You decide not to remove the bird, not to disable it. You'll put it back exactly the way it was. Let it keep hiding in the old clock's belly. Maybe someday, this clock will end up with someone else. Someone who'll be sitting alone at 4 in the morning. And the bird will pop out and scare them, and they'll curse, and then they'll laugh. But the gaps between them are long and uneven. You're not sure if you counted right. Maybe it is 4:30. Its glass gem bead eyes gleam in the lamplight. Its brass feathers are covered in fine engraved lines. Its beak is slightly open, like it is ready to call again. You reach out and touch its wing with your fingertip. But not tonight. Tonight you've called enough. You put the cover plate back on. Hide the bird again. Deepen the gears and springs. Tighten the screws. Put the old clock's back plate on. Stand it up on the bench. It looks like a normal, old black wooden clock now. No one would ever know there is a parrot living in its belly. You stand up and walk to the window. Wipe the fog off the glass with your sleeve. The fog is thinner now. The gas lamps aren't so blurry. You can make out the shape of the building across the street. No sign of dawn yet. But you know, it is on its way. Somewhere you can't see, east of the Thames. The sun is getting ready to make its entrance. You turn around and look at the clocks on the walls. Most of them are still stopped. You put the old clock on the top shelf, letting its gold star keep dancing its slow dance across the deep blue sky. Then you glance out the window. The kind that looks like you are looking through a dirty window. But in the 18th century, that is what passed for morning. You pick up that silver pocket watch. Mr. Hobbs says watch. You fix the hairspring. It is keeping good time now. You slip it into your coat pocket. Then you grab 3 more watches from the shelf. The ones that need to be delivered today. Check each one. They all running. Seconds hands jumping steady. Like soldiers who just woke up. Fresh and ready. But there is one more thing you have to do. Set them to the right time. In 18th century London, setting your watch isn't tea like it is now. You don't have a radio signal from Greenwich Observatory. No GPS. Not even a reliable telephone time service. What you have is the gas lamp on the corner. Not the lamp itself, but the lamp lighter pocket watch. The one he uses to light the lamps every evening. That watch gets sent to Greenwich every Monday morning to be calibrated. Then it gets passed around the whole London gas lamp system. In theory, if you can find your local lamplighter and check his watch. You've got his watch. It is 5 in the morning. The lamplighter's asleep, and your street does. Do you have gas anyway? You have to walk 2 blocks to find one. You put on your coat, that dark wool thing, stained with oil, ink, and tea, its collar worn threadbare. You put the 3 watches in 3 different pockets so they don't bump into each other. Then you pick up your oil lamp and blow it out. Can tea walk around London with an open flame? That is just basic safety. You feel your way to the door in the dark, pull the latch, and step out into the fog. The air outside is freezing. Your lungs feel like someone washed them with ice water. The cobblestones are wet and slippery, coated with a thin layer of moss, like walking on ice. You move carefully, one hand in your pocket protecting the watches, the other stretched out in front of you like a blind man feeling his way. You walk for about 5 minutes, make 2 turns, and finally see it, burning at the top of a black cast iron post. Its light is whiter than oil light, cold white, steady, barely flickering at all. There is a little iron door at the base of the post. That is where the gas valve is. You walk up to it and see a small iron plate nailed to the post. It has the lamp S number and the lighter. You make a mental note of the name, just in case. You pull out Mr. Hobbs' S watch from your pocket and open the lid. Hold it under the gaslight. The minute hand says 50. 7 minutes passed. The second hand is sweeping fast. You count down in your head. When the second hand hits 60, you start counting. 1, 2, 3. You count to 60 and look at the minute hand. It just jumped to the next mark. Good. This one is right on. But how do you know the gas lamp S time is right? You don't T. You just have to trust it. That is how time worked for regular people in 18th century London. You trusted the lamplighter S watch. You trusted the clock at Greenwich Observatory. You trusted that the earth spins at a steady speed. You trusted all of it because you didn't have any other choice. You take out the second watch. Same routine. This one is about 2 minutes slow. You make a mental note. Fix it when you get back. Third watch is half a minute fast. Acceptable. You put them back in your pockets and stand there for a moment, just looking at the gas lamp. The light makes a huge halo in the fog, like a giant pearl floating in the air. The edges of the halo are orange. The center is white. Between them, millions of tiny fog droplets drift through the light, like glowing plankton. You watch them and think, maybe time could be like this. Spinning, bumping into each other, drifting apart. No direction, no end. You hear hoofbeats in the distance. Slow, steady. A freight wagon, probably. The sound gets closer, and then a wagon emerges from the fog. The driver is wrapped in a heavy coat, wearing a tricorn hat, a dead pipe clenched between his teeth. He sees you standing under the lamp and nods. You nod back. That is how London says good morning. Silent, short, no fuss. The wagon passes. The hoofbeats fade into the fog. You stay under the lamp a little longer, not ready to go back yet. You want to be here, outside the workshop, breathing air that doesn't smell like oil. You look up at the gas lamp and imagine how it gets lit. Every evening, the lamp lighter carries a long pole with a burning rag on the end. He lights each lamp, one by one. The first one has already burned through a third of its gas. That is 18th century city lighting, a never-ending race, never in sync. And you, a watchmaker, you are basically doing the same thing as that lamplighter. Both of you are fighting against things being out of sync. Neither of you will ever catch up to that perfect universal, absolute standard time. But you keep trying. You keep getting closer. You remember a story your master once told you. He said there was an old sailor who lived on the banks of the Thames. Never owned a watch in his life. Every morning he look at the sun and know roughly what minute. He was never late, never early. He always showed up exactly when he was supposed to, right on time. Every time. Your master said that old sailor was the most accurate clock of all. You smiled to yourself, put the watches back in your pocket, and turned to head home. The cobblestones are still slippery. The moss still slides under your boots, but you are walking steadier than before. because you are not scared anymore. You know this road leads back to the workshop, back to all those stopped clocks, back to the old clock with a parrot hidden in its belly. You reach the workshop door. Find the latch in the dark and pull it open. You step inside, still dark, still cold, still quiet. You feel your way to the bench, find the lamp, find the flint and steel. Still clink, 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 clink. Clink asterisk, sparks jump, the oil, poof. Asterisk, a small orange glow comes back to life in the workshop, and there they are. The clocks, still sitting where you left them, stopped at their chosen times, waiting for you to wind them. You sit down, pull the 3 watches from your pocket. The grandfather clock on the wall strikes 5:30. Bong, 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 bong. Asterisk 5 slow strokes, and a short, barely audible half stroke. That is the clock telling you. That is the clock telling you. Start adjusting the regulator. Your hands are steady. Your eyes are bright. Your mind is quiet. On this night that is almost over, in this city that is about to wake up, you are sitting in your workshop, playing a game with time. A game you can never win, but one you never want to quit. You finish adjusting the regulator on the last watch and set it on the bench next to the other 2. 3 watches, 3 second hands, 3 different rhythms, but they all running. That is enough. You lean back in your chair and look at the clocks on the walls. Sometime in the last hour, you wound every single one. Ticking comes from every direction, overlapping, weaving together, colliding into a complex 3-dimensional sound you can tell the source of anymore. Some clocks run fast, tick, 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 like rain on a tin roof. Some run slow, talk, like an old man climbing stairs, one step at a time. High notes, mid, range, bass, fast, slow, muffled, sharp. Those ticks and talks are like thousands of tiny feet walking around in your head, leaving little footprints. You follow those footprints back through the whole night, from pushing open the workshop door to lighting the first lamp, from winding the grandfather clock to opening the back of that old clock, from the mysterious stranger, snock to the sleepless woman, scold coins from the mechanical parrot, scream to checking your watches under the gas lamp. Every image flashes through your mind, fast, like a book caught in the wind. You open your eyes and look at the old clock on the bench. Its gold stars covered most of the dial now. On the deep blue enamel, the painted constellations catch the lamplight and glow. You think about the mechanical parrot hiding in its belly, about its 100-year wait, about its 5 lonely calls. You reach out and touch the old clock. The wood is cold, but smooth, like it has been touched by thousands of hands. You know it hasn't tea, just yours. You pick up your cup of tea, completely cold by now, and notice a tiny fly drowned at the bottom. It gleams like metal. You don't know when it flew into your tea. Maybe last night, maybe the night before, maybe every night you sat in this chair. You carry it to the windowsill and set it there. Let it catch the morning light that is about to come, even though it doesn't need light anymore. Outside, the fog is thinning, and the weather vane on top. An iron rooster, slowly turning in the breeze, creaking softly. The sky has shifted from dark gray to light gray, from light gray to something almost white. You know, The sun is up, just hidden behind fog and clouds. It is out there, somewhere you can. Above the observatory at Greenwich, at the source of all clocks, you stand up from your chair and stretch your stiff neck and shoulders. Your spine cracks, your shoulder muscles are hard as stone. You walk to the window and push it open. Cold air rushes in, carrying the smell of bread from some bakery far away. You take a deep breath. That breath tastes like the beginning of a new day. You look back at the workshop. All the clocks on the walls are running. Ticking fills every corner. The oil lamp flame sways in the morning breeze, throwing shadows on the walls. The shadows of all those clocks sway with it, like a crowd of dancing ghosts. The bench is covered with parts, tools, paper slips, teacups, and that old clock. It sits there quiet, its gold star still moving slowly, completely ignoring that the world outside has shifted into a different rhythm. You walk to the shelf, take down the old clock, and carry it to the windowsill. Let it feel the morning air. Let it see London after the fog. You open its front lid and watch the gold star move in the pale light. Morning light is whiter than lamplight. Colder, when it hits the deep blue enamel, the painted stars look like they actually glowing. And then you remember something. A mechanical parrot. You open the old clock. S back plate. Find the lever mechanism and gently flick the brass wire. S click, asterisk, figure, wah, asterisk. The parrot pops out. Wings spread. Beak opening and closing. In the morning light, its green feathers are brighter in natural light than they were under the lamp. The gold paint reflects the rising sun like a tiny jewel. You watch it call, then it stops. Wings fold, beak closes. It retreats back behind the mainspring barrel. This time, you are not scared. You just watch it. You close the back plate and put the old clock back on the top shelf. Then you walk to the bench and start cleaning up the scattered parts. Gears, springs, screws, tweezers, loop back skin, oil can. Everything goes back where it belongs. You wrap the 3 finished watches in soft cloth and set them behind the counter. You tuck the time watch sketch and the woman as paper slipped together on the pending shelf. You dump out the tea with the drowned fly and set the cup upside down by the sink. You finish all of this, stand in the middle of the workshop. The workshop looks exactly the way it did when you walked in tonight, except for one thing. Your lamp is almost out. The wick is burned down to a stub. The flame is as small as a pea, shivering in the morning breeze. You walk to the lamp and watch the fire die. It flickers a few last times. Out, a thin wisp of smoke rises from the wick and slowly fades in the morning light. The workshop goes dark, not the dark of night, a dark soaked in dawn, translucent. You don't need the lamp anymore. It is morning. You take off your oil-stained coat and hang it on the wooden peg behind the door. You walk to the narrow, miserable bed in the corner and sit down on the edge. The bed frame creaks. The straw rustles under you. You lie down. Rest your head on that hard wooden pillow and close your eyes. The ticking is still there, coming from every direction, wrapping around you. But this time, it is not noise pushing you to work. A lullaby. Every clock sings in its own rhythm. All those rhythms together make a slow, rising, falling wave. Like the sea, you lie inside that wave, like a small boat, gently rocking on the surface of time. Bong, bong, bong. Asterisk 6 slow, solemn, long strokes. You count them, and in the echo of the 6th stroke, You sink into sleep. In your dream, you are still fixing watches, but not a pocket watch, not a grandfather clock. Transparent clock with no gears and no springs. Its hands are made of light. Its dial is the sky. Its marks are the stars. It doesn't he need winding? Doesn't he need oiling? Doesn't he need fixing? It is just there, running forever, never stopping. You know that clock is time itself. You've finally sunk into your own night. The clocks you guarded all night are still running. Their ticking fills the workshop, a lullaby that never ends. The mechanical parrot hiding in the old clock rests quietly behind the gears, waiting for the next 100 years. The 3 finished watches sit in a row on the counter, their second hands jumping in perfect time, like they were saying a final goodbye. The sketch of the no time watch sits on paper, its 2 hands pointing forever in directions no one knows, and you. London is waking up. But none of that has anything to do with you anymore. You are already in another world. A world with no ticking, no gears, no clocks waiting to be fixed.